Chick-Fil-A restaurants. Yeah, this story went around the world, no doubt. And Mayor Menino, foul play. Couldn't be a better title for the cover of this newspaper, the Herald. I quote Menino, proclaiming that it will be a cold day in hell before one of his, that's Dan Cathy, who owns these restaurants, will be allowed to open near Faneuil Hall. Well, he says again, you can't have a business in the city of Boston that discriminates against the population, Menino huffed. Well, he doesn't mind discriminating against those who believe traditional marriage, but that's okay, it's one-sided for him. And the Boston Globe, which I never buy, I go to the library. No Christian should buy that paper. Tom Keene of the Boston Globe on July 29th, and I quote, on July 20th, the mayor sent a blunt letter to Chick-fil-A decrying, that is complaining, it's about its anti-gay stance, and telling it to, and I quote Tom Keene, who's now quoting Menino, back out of your plans to locate in Boston. Now you talk about intimidation, just that word, back out of your, I can imagine him saying that. Then there was an op-ed column in the same paper right next to Tom Keene's article. Jennifer Graham's comments. Chick-fil-A does not deny service to gay and lesbian people, nor does it refuse to employ them. So what's his problem? What did Dan Cathy, president of Chick-fil-A, do to deserve such rejection? He's against homosexual marriage, and he puts his money where his mouth is. He donates to causes that promote traditional marriage. This incident went viral. It went around the world, presented Boston in a great embarrassment, and I'm not sure if this is what he intended, but he did. So why did he go on big stage for the wrong reasons? But now I know. He wanted to bow down to the altar of homosexuality. He needs to do that periodically to make sure that they give him the donations or whatever else they do for him. He has to be the first, most bigoted mayor in the United States. It's a disgrace. Of course, he's not the only one. Then we have the others who came in to his aid, Chicago's mayor, Rahm Emanuel. Then we had the D.C. guy. And of course, you know, San Francisco never wants to be second, but there he goes. They're together with him. Please call Chick-fil-A at 404-765-8000 so that you can tell them that you agree with them. Hi. Well, that blip at the end could be you. You may not like what I say. That's why you have to straighten out that blip. You're welcome to call. This is broadcasting live from RCTV studios of Reading, Massachusetts. USA Earth, you never know who's watching. So please call. The number is at the bottom of the screen. There it is. And if you want to see any of my programs, now this is the beginning of my 5th year. I've completed 4 years, and now I have a total of 54 programs. 54, that means 54 in Italian. And it's been a delight because I have an opportunity to show the conservatives how you can get the opposition, which is here. That's the most you'll ever see of them so far in 4 years. A blank sheet as to who they are. They don't want to be known. The reason they don't want to be known is they'd be embarrassed because their friends would just simply rank them, literally, for coming on a program because they do not have the courage of conviction that I do. If they came in, we could have a nice conversation. They may have a different point of view. I never use the word debate. I'd never get anybody here. I mean, of this town here of 24,000 people, I know you're watching because they're waiting for me to slip. The most they're going to slip is someday, but not yet. Anyway, this is a live call-in program. You can call me at the bottom of the screen. And that Johnny Straight Talk Chick-Fil-A.com is the beginning of my website, so you can see a significant number of the programs I have right now, but they're all up there right now. This is about the series Homosexuality because it fits in perfectly for that. Well, let's look at some of my models. The way the government should be, federal government, of course, according to my way, it would cost less. Look at how many trillions, billions, and trillions of dollars you can save by remembering that. Of course, another one that's my favorite is by Mike Baroni, and I had something like this, but he says it very well. Government works for the irresponsible. You hear that? It works for the irresponsible, not for the responsible. A true word could have been said. Another couple of my acronyms, actually it's their aphorisms. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free. The only ones who really promote freedom is in New Hampshire. Live free or die. I have my business up there now. And that's from Jonathan Wolfgang van Goethe. And the last one is, a price that good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. That was Plato, about 400 BC. And you can switch the word from wicked to evil to bad, something else. But it's quite memorable to say you will be ruled by the wicked. And in many cases we are, but they're not wicked in a word that is used today. So you'd have poor results, and you'll be ruled by those who obviously don't have your interest in mind, and that is the interest of everybody, not simply interest of certain segments of the population. Okay. My premise tonight. I always start off the premise so you know whether you like the program or not, or whether it inflames you enough, whether it gets you excited, exercised, whatever word you want to use. The most important is the first sentence. The homosexual movement was not about love, but everything else. I'll repeat that because it sounds crazy, but it isn't. It's the truth. The homosexual movement was not about love, but everything else. They fooled the majority of us and led too many of you. There's a significant number like myself, but we're only a minority, trying to show you what's happening with this movement. Now we're all experiencing the consequences more and more as to that movement. Second, it's all about special rights for homosexuals and increasing repression and fascism, as I will quote an article in one of the local newspapers. Increasing repression and fascism of those who do not embrace the unnatural. Now I use the word unnatural lifestyle, because it isn't natural. People say, well, it is. It's natural to them. Well, you know what? If it was natural, then they would be able to procreate themselves. They can't. They have to depend on broken families from heterosexuals and other families to be able to have children so they can adopt. It is an amazing contradiction to me. The leftists promote the environment in the natural, green, organic foods, etc., yet embrace an unnatural human lifestyle and act as if they can procreate naturally. This is a great paradigm. It's really quite interesting how one way and the other way. PETA people, you talk about abortion and all of a sudden it's off the subject. There's a disconnect. You can see the circuitry just buzzing. The hairs are going up in the air, literally, because they can't deal with why, if you treat an animal with such kindness, that you would not do the same. It's called human rights, and I'm glad to hear more and more younger people are adapting the human rights program for the unborn. Some say this lifestyle is not only promoted as equal, but superior, and I have evidence of that. It has caused our nation to misdirect tremendous amounts of our resources to combat what? AIDS and related diseases, depression, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, obesity, and suicide that could be better used elsewhere. These funds, these resources could be used elsewhere. These are all related to embracing the homosexual lifestyle. You don't hear too much of that. You hear it from me. Again, you don't like my story? I have all kinds of evidence. I've studied the subject as well as I would if I were going for a PhD, which I don't have. I only have an MBA. And that's how much I've studied since 2004, May especially. So those are my premises. So here we go. Menino. I quote from the Eagle Tribune, which is a Lawrence area newspaper, regional newspaper, one of the best in the area. Newspaper's editorial referring to Menino. Menino says, engaging in a polar, this is from the editorial of the Eagle Tribune, engaging in the polar opposite of tolerance. That is Menino, the polar opposite of intolerance, which he supposedly claims he is, Repression and fascism. These are quotes. This paper also advocates homosexual marriage. They just changed. But anyway, they know the difference at least. In the same editorial, I quote, "It is a practice of hypocrites." Menino's a hypocrite. I say he's a bigot, but he's even worse than that. And you'll hear words like tyrant too. To sing the praises of tolerance and diversity while using all the power at their disposal to silence those of different views. That's a totalitarian state. China. You got those countries. You got at least the Russians are starting to move away from that. I quote Howie Carr of the Herald on July 27th. "I know how much my opposition loves Howie. Yet he's the best in the area." Proven by people who listen to him, and he's got the highest ratings of all. He says, "Menino's vindictive and a power-mad tyrant." Well, he's a tyrant if you use this as an example, but other than this example, I don't know if there are any others to justify that. But from this expression of his, yes, he wants it his way. Doesn't make a difference what the laws are. Doesn't whatsoever. It's King, he replaced King George III. It's King Menino. In fact, I don't even know what Menino means. I think it's small in some ways. That's the word Menino, small person, who knows, something like that. I ought to call him up and ask him. I quote from Peter Galzinas of the Herald, who's the opposite side. He'd be great on this chair right here. And what does he say? Menino said, and this is what he's quoting, Menino said, "I stand for is," and it's not my error here, "I stand for is equal rights." That's Menino. He's noted for his Meninoisms, as he says, and consideration for everyone. I admire that. But have some, consideration of others that you've impugned. Okay, the Wall Street Journal had a half-page article. Unfortunately, the time on this phone isn't working, so I have to use something else. And they had a half-page article. This was big news, that's all I can say. It just missed the first page. What Menino was saying is that he not only stands for homosexual rights, but he would, if he could, repress anyone who disagreed with him. This is beyond bigotry. It is violating the laws that he is supposed to enforce, a disgraceful double standard. I know what drives them. I really would like to know. Donations, zealotry is so strong to allow intimidation to come in. This is gangster-style intimidation of a company trying to do something here in this state. It's amazing. Even though he's changed his mind about stopping Chick-Fil-A, he has no regret for his statement, I assure you, none, zero. He is one of the worst kinds of persons in the public position of authority in a democracy. Now, bigot is a kind word for him. In the dictionary, Webster's College Dictionary, it means obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his own opinions and prejudices. It just goes beyond that. So now let's look at other examples of what we call hypocrisy, bigotry, discrimination, repression, fascism. All of those words are from one end of the scale to the other. In a report written by the Illinois Family Institute in missionamerica.com email of July 25th of this year, it reports, and I quote, "The Chicago Tribune is reporting that Chicago Alderman Joe Marino, obviously a Democrat. You notice all the people I mentioned are Democrats, is blocking construction of a Chick-Fil-A in his ward. Since Dan Cathy's, he's the president of Chick-fil-A, beliefs explicitly religious, Marino's effort would seem to violate the Illinois Human Rights Act, which states the following: it is a policy of the state, freedom from unlawful discrimination, clearly violating that. Of course, not Mr. Cath, but Mr. Marino, to try to stop them, to secure all individuals within Illinois freedom from discrimination, et cetera, really, this is a trial lawyer's dream. The number of categories they have today is twice what they had 20 years ago. Imagine that in another 5, 10, 15 years, we'll have twice the number. We're not going to gain anything from this in a worldwide stage for selling products, none whatsoever. Then we have another example of this repression and fascism. Mike Huckabee, he organized a Chick-fil-A Appreciation Day on August 1st as a way to counteract the boycott being organized by the same-sex groups. Of course, they had a kiss in too. Well, from Carla Davis's invitation to Chick-fil-A event disappears of August 1st. In other words, this boycott that we were trying to counter, it appeared in August 1st in citizenlink.com, pro-family news story. And I quote, David Huckabee, the son of Mike Huckabee, said the mysterious disappearance happened while he was called away from his office for meetings. What was happening is that he had lots of people saying, yes, I like this, I like this, I like this, and all of a sudden they disappeared. And I quote, when Dave Huckabee, my mailbox was full of what happened. What happened? That's what people are saying. But we were right, around 100,000 people responded, Mark, and it was growing several hundred an hour, he said. And then on August 1st, again, Arkansas, Mike Huckabee organized this group, as I mentioned, and there were 100,000 likes. Okay, so what happened? The Facebook rep said, I quote, as a matter of policy, we do not factor in the number of ratio in our decision, the number of people calling and who's from what side and what side, in our decision to remove content. And if action is taken, it will be because content violate our policies, not because of public sentiment. This is really ludicrous. So again, is this about love? It's repression. Even a major social media is doing this. In fact, Google has done that to Mass Resistance, who is also a pro-family activist group. So you have these major social medias all in a tank for the homosexual movement, trying to just distort and prevent the truth from getting out. Well, let's look at part 2. Promotion of homosexuality far beyond what most people would find acceptable. This is the homosexual agenda. It's not about love, as I said, it's about everything else. Now we talk about children. Now, is this about love? We'll see. First exhibit I have here is The King and King. This was a book that was used and caused a controversy in Lexington. It's written by 2 female homosexuals. If we can get that, exhibit 1, please. What this exhibit says, hello, is anybody listening out there? It's supposed to be working for me. Here it is. This book here is on the shelf of schools, libraries. I haven't seen it yet in our library, but all over the place. And now this is the mother speaking to her son who's to be a king, succession. And his mother says this, I don't understand you. Every prince in these parts is married, every one of them but you. When I was your age, I'd been married twice already. Now, I've read this book to many adults, and they chuckle at it. Literally chuckle at it. It shows you how we've normalized the sexualization of children and also depriving them of their childhood and marriage, what it means. When I explained it to him, I said, these people, the 2 homosexuals here, are here to corrupt children into saying that, when they get older, they don't understand it, but they're trying to imprint within a child's brain these words. This is notoriously bad. This is really part of the homosexual movement. David Parker in Lexington fought this unsuccessfully. He had to finally leave. Well, again, this is not about love. Kids will be suffering, and when the teacher tells you, they don't read books like this. I fought the school system in another town. I've been a school committee member for 3 years here. But when I fought the school system, I'll tell you, they'll tell you what you want to hear to get you off their back. And you'll never know what's being spoken to the children in the school systems unless they make a mistake like they did here. Now, the next one, we can, Exhibit 2, please. Exhibit 2. 1, 2, get it bigger shot, please. Yep, great. This is a book that was written, hold it for a moment, let's see, about 2 years ago, written in 1999, all right, a while back. Shows you how advanced they were. They were already planning this. Queering elementary education. They're not talking about the LGBT groups in high school. They're already going down to the middle school, and then you have this book all ready for the elementary schools. How to queer your educational materials for the children. So they'll be all ready to be willing to offer their bodies to homosexuality, whether it's encouraging them, otherwise, and that's what it is. Easing into their mind. This is notoriously bad. Corruption. It used to be called corruption. Today it isn't. Shows you how our society has gone down this way in protecting our own children. The last is by a homosexual activist, and he is one of the most truthful people. I read this book 2 or 3 times. It's, here we go, Virtually Normal by Andrew Sullivan. Used to be the editor of New Republic. Out in Front Lines, well, here it is. Out in the front lines, promoting homosexuality and everything else. Listen to what he says. I couldn't say this in any better words. I'll read this. It is also true, however, that homosexual relationships, even in their current somewhat eclectic form, may contain features that could nourish the broader society as well. They're going to teach us which is better. Precisely because there's no institutional model, gay relationships are often sustained more powerfully by genuine commitment. Listen to this. This is a guy plays on words. This is great. Genuine commitment. The mutual nurturing and sexual expressiveness of many lesbian relationships. I think he also meant to say gay. Oh yeah, later. The solidity and space of many adult gay male relationships. This is almost a religion. We're talking about the gospel here. The gospel, homosexuality. Natural? No, unnatural relationships. Our qualities sometimes lacking in more rote, very commonplace heterosexual couplings. They have it, we don't. Same-sex unions often incorporate the virtues of friendship more effectively than traditional marriages. Okay, traditional marriages is subordinate to homosexual marriages. This is what this guy's, he's pretty sharp. He knows how to play with words. He comes right out. Fantastic. I want to thank him for this. I ought to send him a thank you note. Same-sex unions often incorporate the virtues of friendship more effectively than traditional marriages, and at times among gay male relationships. The openness of the contract makes it more likely to survive. An open contract. Well, next week I want to go with this guy. I met this guy here, together. It's okay. You can go with him. I'll go with him. This was in the front page of the Globe magazine, okay, just to promote these relationships. Openness of contract makes it more likely to survive than many heterosexual bonds. and is more likely to be greater understanding of the need for extramarital relationships or outlets between two men than between a man and a woman. Listen, it's greater understanding to have these extramarital relationships. This is their commitment. Only one guy maybe once a month besides your own partner. That's the meaning of commitment. They've changed the word completely. It's not commitment that we know it. Their failures entail fewer consequences for others, but something of the gay relationship's necessary honesty. Obviously, you got to have honesty. Flexibility and its equality could undoubtedly help strengthen and inform many heterosexual bonds. You know, you can't say it any better than this, what they want to do. They want anything to be everything. By the way, here's a whole pile of books I have, children. Check my phone here. 7:25, 7:26. Okay. Well, anyway, I have a final comment here. In the history of the world, homosexual marriages or bonds were never accepted by any major society in the history of the world. So we have now the New Enlightenment. The New Enlightenment. Unnatural relationships will never make it because they can't procreate. And it's not natural, unnatural. It's sad to see a special bond that's been part of humanity since the first relationship happened. And recently in the Chronicle, finish this off, they had 2 dogs getting married about 3-4 weeks ago, a month ago. Eventually, we're going to have a threesome married in Massachusetts. Why not? Since loving, committed relationships is what defines it, we threw down the sex or the gender model, it's over with, then why not? They've already done it in the Netherlands. They haven't done it yet because of the fact that it would upset too many people. But you notice the trend. We've been fools, I haven't, and a small minority haven't, to cave in to this strategy. Can you now see and look back that they've made a fool out of you for not standing up? You have not stood up with those who are pro-family. You think your children are going to be corrupted? You are sadly mistaken. I've given you the evidence. And this is 5 years ago, these books. I haven't gotten any more since that time. They want all relationships. I gave you Andrew Sullivan, telling you a commitment. Now you understand what his commitment means. In his own words. They're going to try to destroy these books, I'm sure. I got one. I'll give it to other people after. But again, I had no calls. Well, what can I say? You know, you can't fight the truth. You may want to. Come on in. Give a call. This is the truth. You don't like it. I know you don't. It's being told to many conservatives out there to get a backbone. I'm talking to my friends, the conservatives, even the independents. You don't have to be a Republican. I'm a conservative. I belong to neither party because they took us down to our knees. And if you think otherwise, you really have a problem in logic. You don't like it, and you're going to stand by like sheep led to slaughter. So again, thank you very much. And go to my website, johnnystraighttalk.com. And I'll go back to my paper, looking for more articles and also more things to read. So, boy, this was Mr. Menino at his best. I really don't know. He's an Italian, but he's just, unfortunately, he insults my heritage. I guess this may be the reason he'll get unelected the next time around. You can't make such outrageous say